Bobo Brazil isn't just about wrestling. It's about a man who broke barriers that weren't supposed to be broken, won titles that were taken away, and changed an entire sport while facing hatred every single day. Most wrestling fans know names like The Rock, Ron Simmons, and Booker T, but they don't know the man who made their success possible. Bobo Brazil was called the Jackie Robinson of professional wrestling, and that comparison wasn't made lightly. Born Houston Harris in 1924, he grew up in poverty in Little Rock, Arkansas. When his father died, 7-year-old Houston had to work on fruit farms for 50 cents per container just to help his family survive. They moved to Michigan looking for better opportunities, but life stayed hard. Houston was gifted at baseball. He played for top teams like the Minneapolis Millers and earned good money. Wrestling wasn't even on his radar. In fact, when promoter Joe Savoldi first approached him about wrestling, Houston's response was clear. "I wouldn't wrestle for a living, even if I had to go on relief." But Savoldi offered him 20 times his baseball salary. That first wrestling paycheck was $2,200. For a young black man in 1948 America, that was life-changing money. Houston Harris became Bobo Brazil, the South American giant. But a promoter's mistake on an advertisement changed Boo-Boo to Bobo, and the name stuck. Sometimes the smallest accidents shape history. Bobo Brazil made his professional debut on March 29, 1948 in Benton Harbor, Michigan. He was 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighed 270 pounds. More importantly, he was smooth in the ring and had natural charisma. Promoters called him their dream wrestler because he could work with anyone and make any match look good. But this was 1948 America. Jim Crow laws ruled the South. Segregation was everywhere. Black wrestlers were only allowed to compete against other black wrestlers in most territories. When black fans came to see Bobo wrestle, they were forced to sit in segregated sections where they could barely see the ring. Bobo himself faced constant discrimination. Hotels refused him service. Restaurants wouldn't let him eat there. Some territories banned him completely just because of his skin color. He had to travel through the dangerous Jim Crow South, where violence against black people was common. Despite all this, Bobo Brazil became something special. He was modest, professional, and never caused trouble outside the ring. This made him appealing to white audiences who saw him as safe. At the same time, black fans naturally supported him because he represented them in a white-dominated sport. This dual appeal was rare and powerful. His biggest rivalry was with the Sheik in Detroit. They battled over the NWA Detroit United States Heavyweight Championship 13 times over 16 years. Their matches were bloody, intense, and drew huge crowds. Wrestling arenas became some of the only places in America where you could see truly integrated audiences. Black and white fans cheering together. Bobo's breakthrough moment came when he became the first black man to wrestle a white opponent in Indiana. Later on October 9, 1970, he participated in the first racially mixed match in Atlanta sports history. These weren't just wrestling matches. They were public challenges to segregation itself. Every time Bobo stepped into the ring with a white opponent, he was making a statement. He was proving that black and white athletes could compete as equals. He was showing that integration was possible. Promoters started putting aside their prejudices because Bobo Brazil made them money. Lots of money. His finishing move was called the Coco Butt, a devastating headbutt that knocked out opponents. But his real impact was knocking down the walls of segregation. He paved the way for future black wrestling stars like Rocky Johnson, Ron Simmons, and eventually The Rock. The most significant moment came on August 18, 1962, in Newark, New Jersey. Bobo Brazil defeated NWA World Heavyweight Champion Buddy Rogers by countout. This made him the first African-American NWA World Champion in history. But here's where the story gets painful. Rogers claimed he was injured during the match. Bobo, being the honorable competitor he was, refused to accept the championship belt. He wanted to win the title from a healthy opponent, not through what seemed like an injury default. A medical examination later proved Rogers wasn't injured at all. Despite this, the National Wrestling Alliance never officially recognized Bobo Brazil's victory. They swept it under the rug, erased it from the record books. Many believe this happened because the NWA couldn't accept a black world champion, especially one they hadn't approved in advance. Wrestling community insiders were blunt about it. The NWA was pissed mostly because Bobo was black and also because it happened without them knowing, but mostly because Bobo was a black man, and to this day it is not in the records. This erasure was devastating. Bobo Brazil had achieved something historic, something that should have changed wrestling forever. Instead, it was treated like it never happened. Ron Simmons is officially recognized as the first black world champion when he won the WCW title in 1992, 30 years after Bobo's victory. Bobo Brazil wrestled for over 4 decades. He held the WWF United States Championship 7 times, accumulating over 4,000 days as champion. He won titles across multiple territories and even became popular in Japan. By any measure, he was one of the top wrestlers of his era. But being first came at a price. Bobo had to be perfect all the time. He couldn't afford to be controversial or outspoken. He had to smile when faced with discrimination. He had to accept segregated hotels and restaurants without complaint. One mistake, one moment of anger, and promoters would have dropped him immediately. He watched as wrestling slowly became more integrated, but he rarely got credit for starting that change. Younger wrestlers achieved mainstream success that had been impossible for him. The Rock became a global superstar. Booker T became a multiple-time world champion. Ron Simmons got official recognition as the first black world champion. Meanwhile, Bobo's most historic achievement, that 1962 NWA title victory, remained officially erased. Even his success came with limitations. Wrestling may have integrated its audiences and roster, but Bobo still faced discrimination outside the ring. The same society that cheered him in wrestling arenas still treated him as a second-class citizen everywhere else. As he aged, the physical toll became obvious. Decades of wrestling had broken down his body. He used a wheelchair in his later years and suffered from strokes. On January 20th, 1998, Bobo Brazil died from complications related to strokes. He was 73 years old. By then, wrestling had changed completely. The sport he helped integrate was now filled with diverse superstars. Black wrestlers were main event stars, not just opening act curiosities. The barriers he broke down were so completely demolished that younger fans couldn't imagine wrestling any other way. But many of those fans didn't know his name. Bobo Brazil was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 1994, 4 years before his death. He also received recognition from other wrestling halls of fame. But the NWA, the organization that erased his world title victory, didn't induct him until 2013, 15 years after he died. His son Carl wrestled as Bobo Brazil Jr., carrying on the family name. Bobo also trained other wrestlers, including James Kamala Harris, passing on his knowledge to the next generation. Today, when WWE celebrates Black History Month, they honor Bobo Brazil. Wrestling historians call him a pioneer and a trailblazer. The wrestling community acknowledges what the record books still deny, that he was the first black NWA world champion. But recognition after death isn't the same as recognition during life. Bobo Brazil changed an entire industry while facing hatred, discrimination, and systematic erasure. He made wrestling better for everyone who came after him. His story reminds us that progress isn't always recorded in history books. Sometimes the most important victories are the ones that get forgotten by officials, but remembered by the people whose lives were changed. Bobo Brazil's legacy isn't just about wrestling moves or championship reigns. It's about a man who refused to let hatred stop him from achieving greatness. He broke barriers that seemed unbreakable and paved roads that others now travel freely. Do you think wrestling has done enough to honor Bobo Brazil's contributions? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold wrestling stories.